Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Jean Chen Wellington, and I'm your moderator for this session that is titled Universal Design, Responding to the Needs of Diverse Learners in a Virtual Space. And I would just like to welcome you all to all our participants/attendees. We thank you so much for joining us, and I can tell you that this is going to be a very, very informative session. Our two co-presenters are Ms. Andrea Campbell and Mr. Brian Campbell. So I'm going to now project Ms. Campbell's, put her on the spotlight, so you will see. So Miss Andrea Campbell is a lecturer in the technology department at Church Teachers College, Maniville. She holds a Master of Science and Bachelor of Education degree in Computer Science from the University of the West Indies and a diploma in secondary education with emphasis in history and computer science from Church Teachers College, Mandeville. She has been an educator for 16 years. Ms. Campbell believes that effective technology integration in the classroom can stimulate interest and provide opportunities for all different kinds of learners to engage in meaningful learning regardless of their disability or difference. And there is Ms. Campbell on the screen. I'm going to put on Mr. Campbell so you will see who he is now. Okay. Mr. Brian Campbell is in his third year pursuing a Bachelor of Education in Mathematics at Church Teachers College, Maniville. As a student teacher, he believes he is poised to enter a profession where he will have a direct platform to assist students in realizing and maximizing their hidden potentials. He currently serves as the Debate Society's interim president. Mr. Campbell is passionate about students' empowerment and upliftment. Now, just to quickly tell you what the abstract is about. Addressing learner diversity in the classroom has always been challenging for educators in the Caribbean and internationally. Several researchers have recorded the negative attitudes of teachers towards providing inclusive education for learners with exceptionalities. What then of the new normal created by the COVID-19 pandemic? 1 minute. Just a minute here. Back Miss Campbell back in the spotlight so you can see her face again. Mayor Rose and Gordon, 2014, records success with shifting from the medical model approach to a social model approach to effectively address the needs of exceptional learners, utilizing the Universal Design for Learning, UDL approach. What if we anticipated all barriers to accessing a curriculum and address them before we actually face the students in the classroom? UDL offers 3 guiding principles that can facilitate this even in the new normal environment. 3 enduring principles of UDL, such as multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, and multiple means of action and expression, can be applied to virtual settings, enabling differentiation and successful inclusionary practices. So as we now segue right into the presentation, just a little housekeeping. You may share your comments or questions in the chat. you may raise your hands if you have a burning question, but preferably we will be having a question and answer session at the end. So, but sometimes, you know, for the natural flow of it, it will be easier for you to just interview. So we will see how it flows. So to our two presenters, I hand over to you.
Morning, are you hearing me? Or good afternoon, rather, are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right, so thank you very much, Miss Wellington, for the introduction. And yes, to those who have logged on to this presentation, I would like to thank you on behalf of myself and my co-presenter for coming on. You are definitely in for an informative presentation, and we do welcome your comments, questions, feedback, anything, your full interaction. All right, so as we begin, I'm going to ask Ms. Campbell to kindly project our PowerPoint presentation on the screen as we get down to our objectives for this particular presentation.
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes. Ms. Campbell, are you getting the
Yes,
PowerPoint up?
yes, the PowerPoint is being projected at the moment. Can you see it? Can anyone see it?
No, we're actually seeing your screen only. Your video only.
Okay, all right. To turn off. Can you see it now, Mr. Campbell?
We're not seeing it. For
I think I'm still highlighted. Dr. Wellington, could you
right.
please?
Okay, most persons are responding that they are seeing it and I'm seeing it. Is it the
Okay, so we're not seeing it.
entitled Universal Design? Is it the one with the title on it?
Yes, that one.
Yes, most persons are seeing it. So I think
All
maybe
right.
you two are not seeing it.
All right. So I'm definitely seeing it at the moment. So yes, we are going to talk about a universal design responding to the needs of diverse learners within a virtual space. As mentioned before, I am Brian Campbell and my co-presenter, Miss Andre Campbell. Can you kindly skip ahead to the slide that highlights the objectives for this presentation? All right. So the objectives for this presentation, they will come in, well, they will come in forms of questions. And the very first question I would like to ask is, how important is the concept of inclusion in the 21st century? Is it an illusion? That question is asked. You know, a lot of times there are some concepts that are really just good ideas, but is not really practical, right? Sometimes the practicality of a particular concept may basically be counterproductive to whatever solution we want to bring about. But in terms of inclusion, we can understand that in the political space, we would like to be inclusive politically, right? But then we know that really that may just be an illusion, because if you want to include everybody's ideas about a particular country, that is impossible, because there will always be conflict. But in terms of but when we think about the context of a classroom, inclusion in a classroom, is that also just an illusion? That's a question I would like us to ponder. Second question, can exceptional learners be empowered in a virtual classroom? And this question ties into the first one. When we think about inclusion, we're thinking about all learners. Is it possible to include persons who are normally thought to be underachievers or special needs individuals? Is it possible to cater for those persons while also catering for high achievers in a virtual space? The third question is there an approach to increase meaningful learning opportunities for everyone, including exceptional learners in a virtual space? So those questions I would like for us to bear in mind as we now look on the very first objective as we talk about in pursuit of inclusion. Now, in pursuit of inclusion, ladies and gentlemen, you know, there is a particular group of students I would like us to think about for a second. We need to think about the disabled among us. You know, in a time like this, in the pandemic, you know, we're basically experiencing a lot of changes. And already before this pandemic, where a lot of us would have had to go online, persons who were disabled many times were really disenfranchised when it comes on to getting equal opportunity in a classroom. And this is so because of a lot of systematic challenges that has impeded the progress of those who advocate for inclusion, as we can see on the slide. And these systematic challenges that students of disabilities face, it really comes down to some models that persons have of students who are disabled. You know, researchers would have come up with two models that can basically summarize that basically summarizes how everybody looks at, or how most persons view persons who are disabled, students who are disabled. So we need to look at the medical model. Persons who see a disabled student in their classroom, you know, they think along the lines of a medical impairment. This medical model, as read here, views limitations faced by individuals with disabilities as resulting from their physical or mental impairments and makes accommodation to fix these. The social model acknowledges how the society often alienates persons with disabilities and so attempts to help people see their potential. What is this particular slide say? Whenever a disabled student comes into a classroom, many times persons automatically perceive that this disabled child, due to medical reasons, is already unable to really perform to the standard of regular students. They think along the medical line to say, all right, physically and mentally, they are already unable, right? When you think about the social model, we think about, for example, how well these students are able to interact with other peers. We think, okay, this person has a speaking impairment, right? Impediment. We already think, all right, then it is going to be impossible and sometimes too time consuming, or it will take a whole lot of effort just to incorporate them in the classroom. And what normally happens, ladies and gentlemen, when educators have this perception of disabled students, the medical model and social model, already the students are defeated because the teachers themselves believe that when this disabled child comes into the classroom, it's already too hard to really satisfy the needs of both the disabled child and the regular students and high achievers. To explain this a bit further, I must bring to our attention the Pygmalion effect, right? For a lot of educators here, I am sure me mentioning this is just refreshing some of or memory. But what the Pygmalion effect basically says, it deals with the teacher's perception of the students and how the teacher's perception may impact the students. And I'll just use an example. A study done by Professor Roosevelt in 1963 at Harvard University. It looks at two sets of lab rats, and they gave two sets of trainers each set of lab rat to basically train through a maze. One set of trainers were told that their lab rats were exceptional. They were specially bred to learn and adapt to changing situation. And the other set of trainers, they were told that, hey, these lab rats, the other set of lab rats, you know, they are dumb, you know, they are incapable of performing like even regular rats. And what we saw at the end of that experiment, we saw that the trainers who were told that their lab rats were specially bred, they far outperformed the other set of rats. And when the trainers came into a room and they were told that, hey, really and truly, all these rats came from the same pile. There was nothing different. The only thing that was different was the perception of the trainers. Professor Roosevelt took that research to the classroom in America. And, you know, to make the presentation, you know, in the interest of time, I'll just say what it showed when it was taken to the classroom was that it is the same effect it has on students. Whenever educators have a perception about a child, it really and truly impacts their ability to learn and to achieve. So what we're basically highlighting in this particular presentation when it comes on to disabled students, we need to be mindful not to automatically have a medical model or social model that creates barriers to their learning, because our perception of their level of achievement matters. So as we move on to the very next slide, so we now need to think then, how can we then, if it's not a case where we ought not just automatically think that, hey, these students are unable to perform at the same level as the high achievers. How then can we truly have inclusion in the classroom? Well, to answer that question, we can have inclusion if we should design our lessons in such a way that incorporates or basically is mindful of all the various learning diversities that exist within a particular classroom. And I asked the big what if. What if we could plan for all learners, regardless of their diversity, before they enter the classroom? What if? And this is where we then, now that the problem is highlighted, let me introduce us to a solution, right? So the solution would be the universal design for learning. The UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning, is based on neuroscience, which has identified 3 neurological networks that impact learning. And these networks basically stand as principles, grounds that the UDL stand for. Can we move to that slide? So those principles, it speaks about multiple means of engagement, representation, and expression. So let's talk about the origins of the UDL. So the universal design was coined by architect and designer Ron Mays at the Center for Universal Design at North Carolina State University. So he developed a set of principles to guide the designs of buildings to become more accessible to those with mobility limitations. So let me kind of explain what this particular designer did. He looked at the world. He looked at, for example, government buildings and saw that, hey, the government buildings that would have beforehand designed ramps, these buildings actually were designed in such a way to automatically cater not just to those who are able to use steps, but also to those who are in wheelchairs. Now, what does this building do? The buildings that are designed with only steps, whenever somebody with a disability who is basically bound to a wheelchair, for example, if that person with a wheelchair wants to get into that building, yes, they will require great effort to get that person into the building. Persons may have to probably come out and lift that person up, lift the wheelchair up, and try to move that person around. But the thing is, Ron looked at it and said, but the buildings that are designed beforehand, the buildings that are actually prepared for these individuals beforehand, these buildings cater to the wheelchair persons, to the persons who basically use steps and so on. And there are other examples. For example, when television uses captions, right? For televisions that use caption, it not only caters to the deaf, it also caters to those who want to learn English. It also caters to those who are probably sitting in a meeting room who, they can't hear the sound, but they would like to see what's happening on the television. I don't know if, I remember when I was at the bank during Olympics time, and you can't really hear the excitement in the bank, but you can look on the TV and see the caption and know what's going on. Ron looked at a world like that and say, hey, those principles that design, they basically structure their system in such a way that they structure their system in such a way that it caters to all people beforehand. Why not bring this into the classroom? So hence the original set of principles have since evolved to include instruction and is called the principle of universal design for learning. So these principles, let us talk about these principles for a bit. So as mentioned before, this particular design for learning, it says to us, if we want to plan our lessons beforehand, right, that even before we know who our students are within a classroom, even before the school year begins and we're sitting down during the summer and we're saying, how do I want to approach this school year? This is a particular design for learning that we ought to bear in mind that whatever comes, we are already prepared. And this speaks to us designing our lessons with multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, and multiple means of action and expression. Designing this, we can see the benefits beneath each of them. The multiple means of engagement offer options and support to stimulate motivation and sustained enthusiasm for learning. Representation, it prevents information in different ways to support access and understanding. Multiple means of action and expression offers options and support to all so everyone can create, can learn, and can share. Now, let's go to the very next slide. So here we have where it speaks a bit more on each principle. Multiple means of representation give learners various ways of acquiring information and knowledge. What would this look like in the classroom? Well, this will look like, for example, we know that there are various learning diversities such as visual learners. We know that there are linguistic learners, persons who would prefer written information and so on. So basically, we can find in our lesson to present the information, we can have videos, we can have them go and do research and search articles. We can have them play games, things like that, multiple means of expression, provide learners with alternatives for demonstrating what they know. We can have them, instead of only demonstrating what they know through typing information or writing information, they can do skits, they can come up with programs, for example, podcasts, things like that, multiple means of engagement. We find various ways of basically reaching the learners. So instead of just, for example, on a Zoom platform, instead of just sitting and speaking to the online individuals, to the individuals online, to the students online, we can try to engage them using games or using various platforms. There are a whole lot of platforms set up to basically enable student engagement, that regardless of the type of learner that student is, that student would be adequately engaged. So what have I basically said so far? So far, I would have highlighted a problem. There currently exists, especially on this new platform we are all going online, persons may have a perception, educators may have a perception of some students that, hey, really and truly, it will take extra effort to bring some students on par with others, right? That's a problem, not only because some students may be disabled, as we looked at them in particular, but the reality is our perception of these students may actually impact their learning. An example that a lecturer shared with me that her son, unfortunately, is also somebody who is disabled, right? Or has some disability. And on the online platform, there are some things that the teacher would have already omitted the child from, already saying that the child is unable to do. For example, if the teacher has a particular project for it to be done, the teacher would single out that child and say, hey, you don't have to worry about that. But without even giving the student a chance to really show that, hey, I can do it. And this actually demotivates the child. So we are saying, hey, this is a problem. So what we need to do, we need to design our lessons in such a way that reach these students. But hence another problem. Some teachers, some educators may have a mentality that if we are really going to try to get everybody involved, it may be at the detriment to the overachievement. To the overachievers, sorry. We are saying no. The solution is designing our lessons in such a way, the universal design for learning, designing our lessons in such a way that it does meet these individuals that are commonly thought to be underachievers or unable to achieve or be on par with the normal student, as well as it's designed in such a way that still helps and facilitates the the overachievers in the classroom. And not only that, it empowers students to other students to basically on this online platform to basically achieve and do well. This sounds like a lot of work, I know. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but who will come to show us that, hey, in order to do this, it is no massive task. It is actually something very practical. It is something that definitely can be done. Is my co-presenter, Miss Campbell. She will show us, she will actually show us the universal design for learning. She will actually show us practices, simple ways of actually implementing this way of going about designing lessons. She will basically show us how to do this, and I now invite her to come on and take over this presentation. So that's Miss Campbell.
Thank you. Well, before I begin, is everyone seeing my screen at this time?
I think most are, but a few expressed concern that they weren't. But
1 second, please. I'm going to reshare, so I think everyone will be able to see in a minute. Is anyone, well, okay, good. So everyone is seeing it now, I hope. All right, good.
Yes, I think so. You could go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. So the first thing I would like us to look at before we get into using UDT in our classroom are the challenges. What challenges have you encountered with your virtual classroom, teaching online?
Sorry, I'm seeing a hand and I'm trying to
Yeah,
see the person.
right, I'm trying as well. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm seeing a hand. Renee, let's see, but it's jumping whenever I'm trying to get her on. I don't know if the IT person could assist here. Renee is trying to speak. Renee and is jumping. There are two persons who have raised their hands. Could we get some assistance to get them on? Okay. Um, there are some messages in the chat. I don't know if Ms. Campbell, if you'd want to, parents are doing the work for the children. That's one challenge. I don't know if you want to address it.
Oh, definitely. So these are some of the challenges that we're encountering. Students are not connecting. Parents are doing the work for the students. I'm really looking to see anything else. I'm also in the chat.
Yes, another one
Oh,
said low attendance, lower late attendance, and some devices and poor connectivity
right,
and participation, low levels of participation.
right, definitely from students and poor
Yes, and that
connection.
is,
All right, thank you so much. So these are some of the challenges that we already have in the classroom. And then now we are trying to, okay, so I'm seeing another one coming in, other distractions at home. So no, we are trying to have online classes with our students to be as inclusive as possible, to include all students, those with learning disabilities, those with sensory disabilities, and also our exceptional learners. Right? So today we are really going to look at some of the methods that we can use to address these challenges. If students are not connected, then perhaps we can use some of the principles, for example, different or multiple means of representation to put the information out there so that our students can access it when they have connection. So the first thing that we're going to look at are a few pointers. How can we incorporate CBT in our classes, in our online classes? Then we're going to look at two technological tools. Google Classroom. I know most of us are familiar with Google Classroom. We use it. That is the space that we're using to host our lessons. So we are going to look at being as inclusive as possible to use the UDT to reach our students. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the universal design in action. All right. So with multiple means of engagement, Mr. Campbell just ran us through different principles that we're going to apply. So the first one now, multiple means of engagement. Someone mentioned earlier that we have a problem with students' participation. So the very first thing that we have to do before we plan any online learning or before we plan to incorporate every learner in our classroom is to first identify the barriers. Why are the students not participating in our classes? So in identifying the barrier, it could be that perhaps they're not able to read the instructions. It could be internet access. It could be a variety of reasons. So what we can do is to have multiple means of engagement. So for instance, the instructions that we give, we can have written instructions along with an audio recording, along with a video that is conveying the same message to the students. So when they do log on to Google Classroom or they log on to the other learning platform, they can see exactly what they're supposed to do. Another one too, we can use weekly or daily check-in with the students just to see what's happening with them. We can use online forums. We can also use chats to see what is happening with our learners. So another point as well, working online, is to assign different note takers. Now, from time to time, we might have a synchronous class on Google Meet. During that time, students are usually attentive, trying to catch everything that they can. But what if we assigned note takers to that session? So different students will take notes during that session so that everyone else can focus on what is happening in the class at the time. At the end of the lesson, yes, definitely we are going to post the slides, post whatever presentations were done, as well as the notes that was taken for that class. So these are different methods that we can now incorporate in our classroom to involve all our learners. The next one that we're going to look at is multiple means of representation. As we know, we have students with different abilities, they have different learning styles. So now that we are online, how are we now going to meet the needs of all our learners? We have to try by providing different means of representation, presenting the content in different ways. So we can use written information, we can also post videos, we can post images of the same content. So in that way, our students will be able to log on to the learning platform, then they will choose which format they would like to use. So if they would like to use a PowerPoint presentation, then they click on that. They can also use as many formats as possible. So they may use a PowerPoint presentation, they might use a video along with an audio recording. So the idea here is that we're catering for all the students in our classes. I know you might be saying this is going to be extremely time consuming to find all the different activities, all the different information in the different formats. And it will be. So looking at another way, we can also have flexible presentations. So in one PowerPoint presentation, for example, we can combine all the formats. So we can have a link to a video clip. We can also have audio recordings, we can have graphics, and we can have text. So again, using multiple means of representation. So that now will cater to the students who are at different levels, the students who also are more advanced, the students who also may be struggling with some disabilities like dyslexia, for example. So the next one that we're going to take a look at is action and expression. We are using multiple forms of representing the content. So we also need to have multiple ways in which our students can demonstrate their knowledge. Now, in doing that, we can allow students to choose. So we're going to give them options now. Would you like to do a written document? Would you like to upload a formal document, an essay? Or would you perhaps like to use a video? would you like to create a video or an audio or perhaps a poster to explain what you understand, to demonstrate your knowledge? So here now, we're allowing the students, all the students, to be able to participate and express how they understand the content. Of course, you might be wondering too, if we're going to give an essay and a video and an audio recording along with a poster, how are we going to ensure that the students are covering the same information? In that case, we need to be specific. So that's another aspect of it too. We need to be specific so students can know the exact learning outcome. What are they supposed to do? Also, we will create a rubric that is general. So then if you're using an essay to do your assessment or to answer the question, then the same rubric that goes for your essay will also be applied to your video, your audio, or your graphic. In that, another aspect we could look at is using interactive online discussions to allow our students to explain in a forum. So we can use forums, we can also use chats to get students to express themselves. So these are just some tips that we can use for UDT. But now we're going to take a closer look. How can we do this in Google Classroom, for example? So here on screen, we have an example of using multiple means of engagement. The students are supposed to look at input devices today. So notice the teacher has written a statement. Good morning, class. Today we're going to look at input devices. In addition to that, a link is there, and we also have a recording. So for the students who might not be able to read that sentence, they can simply go online, click on the recording, and then they will hear the instructions for the day. They will know where to go. We could also have included a video as well. So in that case, students have multiple ways of engaging with the content online. So we're catering for all students. Another one that we have here is multiple means of representation. Now in this one, we're looking at teaching about input devices. So here now, we have different formats. We're teaching about input devices. We have a video that is showing input devices. The same information that is in the video is also on the poster below. That same information, if you go across, it is on the handout in Google Docs. So when the students go now to click on Google Docs, it will bring them to the document, and they have the option to click on read aloud so that it will read for them. So again, Google Classroom is an assistive technology, but we need to, well, we just need to know where to go. And hopefully we can go there today to look at some of the options that we can turn on to have it reading aloud for our students, or to allow our students to use speech to text. So they can talk to their phones or talk to their tablets, and then it will write for them. As well as to turn on the option to allow our students to use a Braille keyboard or so. So we're going to take a look at that. But another form of representation that is on screen where we have a link, that is a link to an audio presentation as well. So here we are giving the students multiple means of representing the content. So the same information that we have there written is the same information we have in the video, in the poster, on the link to the audio file. So when they click on it, it just starts telling them about input devices. And we also have it on our flashcard. Our flashcards are a website that is used that we're going to take a look at is called Quizlet. So that's the next one that we're going to look at after Google Classroom. So again, we're providing multiple means of representation for all our students. So the next one that we're going to look at is multiple means of action and expression. How will we know if our students understand? In our virtual platform, we're going to give them options. So instead of saying you must complete this document by typing in or uploading a written document, we're going to give them options. So we are going to do the assignment in such a way, or whatever learning activity we are carrying out for the day, to allow students to choose. So you can click on the Google Doc that is on screen, and you can use speech to text to tell the computer what to write, then it will enter your answer, or you can type it in. Spell check will also help our students right there in Google Docs, or we can have our students upload a video. As you realize, our students are sometimes more technologically advanced than we are, so they can create amazing videos and audio and graphics. So why not give them the chance to do so? So then what we can do, we can leave the assignment open with options. So the students can upload a written document, or they can upload a video, an audio, or a graphic based on the question. And the wonderful thing about Google Classroom now is that it's online, and it is allowing all our students to go online and to access it at their convenience, or unfortunately at their parents' convenience, and do the work. So then the next one that we're going to look at, I know our time is against us, is Quizlet. Now, Quizlet is another interesting platform that I think you will like. It's an online learning platform that really uses games and activities. I don't know how many persons have used it before. So what Quizlet does is to allow our students to practice what they have learned by creating games or other learning activities. So what the software will do, what the website does, is to create different learning activities that we can use for different students in our class. So for instance, we might have flashcards. So the flashcard will give the students the information about different terms, and then they can select Learn, where they are challenged to answer questions. For write, they will have to write a definition or a word. Also, for spell, they will be able to spell. So we can check the spelling. Well, we can test for spelling, definitely. Test as well. So Quizlet will create a test for us. So the test that Quizlet is creating will include multiple choice, true and false, short answer. You can choose what to test, or you can go in and edit and remove what you would not like to have on your test. It also gives them the game option, so they get to play a matching exercise. The matching exercise tests the content. Gravity, that's a space game as well. It tests their knowledge. And they can also play against their classmates as well using the Quizlet Live. So right now, I would like you to check out a Quizlet that was created already. It's called Input Devices. I'm going to put it in the chat so that we can take a look at it. So I'm hoping as well that we can go through the process of creating a Quizlet online together. So here we have the input device Quizlet. I'm going to post the link to this Quizlet in the chat so that you can go ahead and check it out for a few minutes. So I'm also going to stop sharing my screen at the moment. I'm going to bring us over to Quizlet, where we can look at it online as well. All right, so everyone, please see chat. The link is, okay, wow. Is anyone seeing the link at the moment for the Quizlet?
No, I don't think so.
All right, I think it's there now. So please click on it. Input device. So please go and check out the input device Quizlet. So I'll give us a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, so we can check it out, and then we're going to look at creating our own Quizlet online. Okay, so is everyone able to access the link? On my screen, the Quizlet is coming up for input devices. Okay. Oh, good. Oh, nice. So I see Hope has tried it out. So what do you think about it? Do you think you'd use it in your classroom? Okay. All right, nice. All right, so I think all right, nice. So I think definitely we could go ahead now to try to create a new Quizlet, this time for output devices. Okay. So once we sign up, we would go to Quizlet.com and we can sign up. If you have a Gmail account, you just sign up using your Gmail account. So once you have signed into Quizlet, the next step is to click on create. So Quizlet is really very user-friendly. All we have to do, put in the terms, and it will create all of these wonderful activities for us. So we're going to create a set. If we were teaching multiple classes, then we would create a class and then we could add the sets to it. So for today, we're going to create a set and we're going to call that output devices. All right. Okay, so here now we are going to, all right, we're going to list a few. Okay, we're going to list a few output devices. So the first one we're going to look at is the monitor. Now you might notice Quizlet is so user-friendly that we click on monitor and it's trying to give us a definition to say, is this what you would like to have? But in our case, we already have our definition, so I'm just going to paste our definition in. Okay, and now we can also add an image. Quizlet is giving us some images, so we can go ahead and choose. So the next one we're going to look at is the speaker. And again, it's giving us some suggested responses. So we're just going to add our own response. And then we are going to select an image. This is the one we'd like, computer speaker for our lesson. So we're moving to the next one. All right, so in the interest of time, we can stop at 3. Okay, so once we have added all the terms, and we can scroll down and add some more cards, as many as we would like, then we are going to select create. So automatically Quizlet will create all the activities. So let's check out the first one. All right, so we're not going to add a class at this time. So here we go. If students are reviewing a topic, then they can use flashcards. Click on the flashcard, it tells you what it is. They can use it for studying as well. When we go into learning, when we go into learn, we'll see that Quizlet has already created this activity. So then we can select the device. So this is what our students will see. When we copy the link and paste, this is what our students will be seeing. Right, so I see some comments that Quizlet is interesting. I hope you give it a try. Another thing too, we can incorporate Quizlet in Google Classroom. So we can copy a link to it, paste it in Google Classroom so that our students can access it from Google Classroom and it will give us the feedback in Google Classroom. So we just go to our Google Classroom and we will be able to see those students who have already completed the Quizlet or which sections of the Quizlet they have done. And Quizlet also gives you feedback as you're seeing here, telling us how many we have done so far, how many are left to do. All right. Definitely. So I invite you to try Quizlet some more on your own. Sign up for an account. It is free. If we would like some more advanced features, we can pay for it, but Quizlet is completely free, and we can have several different learning activities to use in our classroom with our learners. So let us try this one out. Spell. Students can type what they hear.
Printer.
All right. and then we would type the answer. So they simply click, right? Or, so it's catering for all our students. Okay, so do we have any questions at this time? Okay. All right, seen some messages here. Some persons have tried it and their students really love it. Awesome. Okay. Well, all right. Okay, and also I wonder, okay, so for live, it's saying that we would need 6 unique terms to start, but for live, we could actually play against each other now. So all the persons who are connected, we would be able to join groups and play together. So Quizlet does offer us a lot of features that we can use in our classes. So I invite you to try Quizlet and to apply the different principles of UDT. Thank you so much for joining us today for this presentation. I turn over now to Dr. Wellington.
Thank you so much, Ms. Campbell and Mr. Campbell. I am trying to, I don't know if persons are hearing me, I'm trying to re-upload the evaluation link because persons are having difficulty accessing. So that's what I'm trying to do. So just give me a minute to try and do that, okay? But somehow I am not. Yeah, I'm just going to put it back in and are we seeing it now? All right, let me press enter. Okay, I think I've sent a new one and the link again, so you can tell me if you're able to access it because it's very important that we are able to fill out the evaluation form, okay? But thank you very, very much. So I had noticed, Ms. Campbell and Mr. Campbell, that there are a few questions. I know we need to be quick. Someone that asked, what about the younger classroom? How would they apply this to the younger classroom?
Okay, thank you so much. Well, definitely to apply UDT in the younger classes, we would definitely call upon Google Classroom where we would use speech. So we have, for instance, where if we turn on the accessibility features, it would read every single thing on our screen. So we would have our screen reader or speech reader. So in that case, when our younger student logs on, goes on to Google Classroom, right, then it would tell them exactly what is there and where they should go. So for example, it would say, click on the video, then students could go click on the video, and then they could also use the speech to text in Google Docs. So it's really about how we apply the UDT, allowing our teacher know, so we would have multiple forms of presentation. So we would have multiple forms of representation. So we would have videos, we would also have posters, we would have text. It's about really implementing UDT in using the technology. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, sorry, I was just trying to sort out the link. Can you try clicking it again and see if it can work? Yes, okay, so Ms. Campbell, so that was one question. Another question was the Moodle, that most persons are using Moodle.
Okay.
So how would we work around that?
All right. Well, again, the same the same principles would apply to any learning management platform. So if it is Moodle, if it is Schoology, if it is Google Classroom, the same thing applies. Having multiple forms of engagement. Same thing applies. So we would have our written instructions. We would also have video that is talking about the same thing that is written. We have our audio presentation that is also talking about the same thing that is written. It's really about allowing all our students to be included. So it doesn't matter which platform we're on. It is the approach that we're applying. So again, we would also have multiple forms of representation. So the same content that you're teaching, use a video. Use a video along with the handout. Use a PowerPoint presentation. In this PowerPoint presentation, have more than just text. Have animations, have also videos, links to videos, graphics, anything that will allow your students now to be able to see the content from a different perspective or in a different format. As well as too, for assessments and assignments, give students the flexibility to demonstrate their learning how they would like to or what works best for them. So they give them the chance to upload the video, give them the chance to upload many different types of documents. And the good thing is with any learning management platform that we're using, it has the features to allow us to upload any type of document. So whether it is PowerPoint, video, it can still be done.
Thank you. Miss Colette had her hand up. Colette, you had your hand up. Do you still have something to say? No? Okay. Miss Campbell and Mr. Campbell, I know that everyone will concur with me that it was really a very interesting and informative session. And I know for me, I've been having struggles just trying to work around the online platform because it has been new to me. And I like what you're saying. I talk about the multiple means of representation and just the different ones that you've given us, and very practical. And I know that I'm speaking on behalf of everyone here that we will be employing them a little bit more. And I like the fact when you said that it's like we're empowering students more to make choices, like they can choose which means, they want to view it. And I think that really stood out to me, and I'm sure to others too. So thank you both very, very, very much. And, wish you all the best. I thought someone was saying something. So we thank you again, and thank you to all our participants, our IT person, everyone. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, a few of us haven't finished as yet, but then we're trying. Well,